Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's top security advisor is now back in Seoul after his trip to Washington to discuss tariffs and a potential summit between President Lee Jae-myung and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. The Bank of Korea has decided to hold its interest rate steady at 2.5% amid soaring housing prices in Seoul and an increase in household debt. Former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has now been sent back to jail again over his failed martial law attempt last year. This comes around 4 months after Yoon, who was the first sitting South Korean president to be arrested, was released from jail in March. South Korea's top security advisor, Ri Sung-nak, has returned home from Washington after meeting his U.S. counterpart to discuss trade, security, and other key issues. He explained that no exact date has been set for the South Korea-U.S. summit. Our presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
During his meeting with U.S. counterpart Marco Rubio in Washington, South Korea's top security advisor Ri Sung-nak suggested holding a summit between President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump as early as possible. However, no date has been set, according to Ri during a press briefing on Wednesday upon returning from his 4-day trip to Washington, D.C.
I suggested holding a South Korea-U.S. summit as soon as possible to facilitate the process of making mutually beneficial agreements on pending issues. Secretary Rubio has agreed.
When it comes to new U.S. tariffs that are set to take effect on August 1st, we said the two sides will maintain close communication for a package deal.
Talks include issues across the board, including trade, investment, purchasing goods, and security. We suggested taking all this into a package to make progress in negotiations.
South Korea was tagged with levies of 25%. We says the goal is to eliminate the tariffs, and if not possible, then to minimize them. When asked about the allies' defense cost-sharing, the Korean security advisor said that the special measures agreement was not addressed specifically, though discussions did include defense spending as a whole. Noting South Korea's annual contribution of more than $1.1 billion, he said the country is also upping its overall defense spending. U.S. President Trump has recently insisted that Seoul was underpaying for military protection. We stressed the need to resolve pending issues within a broader framework of promoting the alliance.
Eyes are on how the value of the bilateral alliance that has lasted for over 7 decades can be preserved in the face of pressure on the allies' defense cost-sharing and tariff threats. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The annual series of ASEAN-related meetings takes place this week in Malaysia, gathering foreign ministers from the 10 Southeast Asian nations and partner countries, including South Korea. Our foreign affairs correspondent Oh Soo-young fills us in on what to expect.
South Korea is set to adopt a new action plan on cooperating with Southeast Asian countries at this week's series of high-level meetings in Kuala Lumpur. According to Seoul's foreign ministry, South Korea is joining the annual ASEAN-related foreign ministers' meetings on Thursday and Friday as a dialogue partner country to the 10-member regional bloc. During a meeting between Seoul and ASEAN, the two sides will adopt a plan of action laying out concrete steps to implement the comprehensive strategic partnership reached upon their 35th anniversary of dialogue relations last year. They're expected to focus on deepening security, economic and cultural cooperation. First Vice Foreign Minister Park Yoon-ju is leading the delegation, as the new Foreign Minister nominee Cho Hyun has not been officially confirmed by Parliament. Park will also attend the ministerial meeting of ASEAN and +3 nations, including Korea, Japan and China, a separate meeting with Mekong countries, the East Asia Summit and the ASEAN Regional Forum. Concerns over tariffs and regional tensions are expected to dominate most discussions, as the United States this week sent letters to 14 countries threatening to initiate the so-called reciprocal tariffs by August 1st. If no deal is reached, the Trump administration says it will impose 25% duties on South Korea, Japan and Malaysia, 32% on Indonesia, 36% on Cambodia and Thailand, and 40% on Laos and Myanmar. In a draft communiqué revealed to AFP, ASEAN nations warned that unilateral tariff actions are destabilizing economic recovery and deepening global divisions. Arriving Thursday for his first Asia trip since taking office, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to defend America's push to, quote, rebalance its trade relationships, according to officials in Washington. The attendance of Chinese and Russian foreign ministers Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov is also drawing attention amid their shaky relations with the US. Beyond tariffs, ministers will address rising tensions on the Thailand-Cambodia border, the ongoing civil war in Myanmar, and territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, South Korea is expected to reiterate its support for peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and emphasize ASEAN's role in coordinated regional diplomacy. ASEAN's annual meeting of foreign ministers is the only multilateral forum North Korea has attended in the region. However, there's a chance Pyongyang will skip this year's meeting, given its severed diplomatic ties with the host country Malaysia. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
And as widely expected, South Korea's central bank has held its benchmark interest rate steady at 2.5%. The Bank of Korea announced the decision on Thursday following the 5th Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the year, taking a break from a rate-cutting cycle after a cut of 25 basis points in May. The decision comes amidst soaring housing prices and an increase in household loans. Late last month, the government introduced stricter mortgage rules to try to cool down the overheated prices of homes in the capital region. The record high rate gap between South Korea and the U.S., which currently stands at 2 percentage points, also fueled expectations of a rate freeze. So the BOK has announced that it will hold its interest rate steady. For more on what's behind this decision, we're joined by Professor Shin Se-don, professor at Division of Business Economics at Sookmyung Women's University. Professor Shin, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
So the Bank of Korea has decided to keep its benchmark interest rate at 2.5%. What's behind this decision, and how will this affect the South Korean housing market?
Well, it is fairly anticipated by the market that, almost 90% of the analysts in the market expected that there will be no rate lowering this time. And primarily the reason, I think, should be the rising inflation in apartment price, especially in the Seoul, Gangnam area, which has been showing more than 10% year-over-year rate of increase, and that is, I think, almost the highest in almost 20 years, except for 2017, 2018. So a fairly high inflation in apartment price in Seoul. I think that is the prime reason for the Bank of Korea to stay put in the rate. And to the question whether the rate will be cut in the near future, that I think depends upon the future course of price of apartment, especially in the Seoul area.
Right, and like you said, many expected the rate will be kept steady this month, but some have been saying that the central bank needs to lower the rate. Why is this, and when can we expect further rate cuts in the near future?
I think, as far as I am concerned, I think the Bank of Korea made a huge mistake in last May when they lowered the rate by 25 basis points, because at the time, in the month of May, there has been already a significant move in the prices of apartment in the Seoul area. So I think the Bank of Korea should not have lowered the rate in the month of May. So that, I think, is the main mistake by the Bank of Korea. And therefore, as long as current situation in the price of inflation in the apartment price continues, there's very little room for the Bank of Korea to lower the rate either in August or in September. So I think the future course of interest rate depends upon the price of apartment prices in Seoul. And we have to look at, what kind of measures, other measures like, more supply in the area, and also a lot of regulations regarding apartment loans, whether that could be successful in cooling down the price. In that case, I think, when the other measures are successful in cooling down the prices of apartments in the Seoul area, I think there is a room for the Bank of Korea to lower the rate down the road in 2025. But for me, I think it is pretty not sure, because already interest rate is too low. 2.5% is about 200 basis points lower than the United States. I think it's pretty low, and there's a lot of significant kind of a factor, causing the inflation in the apartment price to rise in the future.
I see. And U.S. tariffs are another very important factor in shaping the South Korean economy. So with the Trump administration threatening to impose 25% tariffs on South Korean goods, this is expected to significantly impact the Korean companies and the economy, right?
Oh, yeah. It is a formidable tariff, 25% tariff. I think it's historically high for Korean exports in major peacetime Korean history. I think in my calculation, it could reduce export to the United States by 1/4, which is about between 30 and $40 billion, which is about the 5% of total Korean export to the world. And if, our export to the United States fall by $300 billion, that amounts to 2.5 percentage point in economic growth for Korea. So I think that's a pretty significant impact for Korean economic growth, as well as, the revenue making from export revenues.
Right. And talks on next year's minimum wage are underway right now, and it looks like it will be finalized today. How is this likely to affect the domestic economy?
Well, at the start, the gap between the labor and the management has been so huge. So it was almost, kind of threatening, for the deal making in the minimum wage. But fortunately, after 12, round of negotiations, the gap has been lowered between 10,440 and 10,210. So the gap is about 201, and I think the settlement could be reached in between, 440 and 210. So that amounts to 10,300, in which case the rate of increase in the minimum wage will be about a little more than 2%. And if the minimum wage is increased by a little more than 2%, I think that is sustainable on both sides. Of course, there should be a lot of complaints in the labor side, but as far as management is concerned, about 2 percentage point increase in the minimum wage is well within in the scope that they could manage. So I think it is pretty fortunate for this government to be able to settle in between, 10,440 and 10,210, which is pretty good for Korean economy in near future.
I see. All right. We'll have to see how it goes. Professor Shin, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
The world's largest cryptocurrency by market cap, Bitcoin, hit a new all-time high on Wednesday. According to U.S.-based virtual currency exchange Coinbase, the price of a single Bitcoin was trading at $112,055 at 3:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, up over 3% from 24 hours prior. It marks the first time the cryptocurrency surpassed the 112,000 mark, shattering the previous high of $11,900 set on May 22nd. Now, on the local front, former President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested for a second time. This is the first time in history that a former or current president in South Korea has been rearrested. Our Choi Soo-young reports.
Former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested again. It has been 124 days or about 4 months since the court cancelled his previous arrest on March 8th. On Wednesday, after a 6-hour, 40-minute hearing and more than 5 hours of review, a court decided to issue an arrest warrant or fears that he could destroy evidence. The special counsel team said Yoon ordered the deletion of secret phone records and made a fake martial law statement, which he later threw away. It seems that the court agreed this could be considered evidence tampering. Last Sunday, the counsel team formally accused Yoon of 5 major charges. Those charges are that on December 3rd last year, Yoon held a partial cabinet meeting to simulate approval for martial law, that he wrote a false martial law statement and later destroyed it, that he spread false information to foreign media, that he ordered the deletion of secure phone records, and that he used the Presidential Security Service to stop the police from arresting him. The special counsel team is now allowed to hold Yoon in custody for up to 20 days for investigation. Yoon is being held at Seoul Detention Center. All his presidential-level security has been revoked. He will undergo the same procedures as regular inmates and will be placed in a solidarity cell. There's no air conditioning and electric fans are restricted to limited hours. The investigation now shifts focus on foreign aggression crime charges. Yoon is accused of trying to provoke North Korea by sending a drone to Pyongyang to justify declaring martial law. Unconfirmed testimony from military sources claim the president gave a direct order to send a drone into North Korea. However, due to military secrets laws, specific details have not yet been revealed. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics unveiled its latest generation of its Galaxy Z series smartphones. At the Galaxy Unpacked 2025, the Korean company introduced its slimmest and lightest foldable phone to date. Our Lee Seung-jae takes a look.
The summer edition of Galaxy Unpacked 2025 was held in New York City on Wednesday, with expectations high over Samsung Electronics' latest releases. There, Samsung Electronics unveiled the latest generation of its Galaxy Z series smartphones, showcasing the company's slimmest and lightest foldable smartphones to date with their Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Galaxy Z Flip 7. Along with its new physical features, the company says the new smartphone comes with an upgraded camera and artificial intelligence capabilities.
Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Z Flip 7 represent the pinnacle of our innovation. Galaxy AI has become your very own human-like AI companion, elevating the way you connect, create, and live every single day.
Samsung says the Galaxy Z Fold 7 is the thinnest and lightest model in the latest Z series. The phone measures just 8.9 millimeters when folded and 4.2 millimeters when unfolded. It weighs just 215 grams, making it even lighter than the Galaxy S25 Ultra, launched in January. Despite a reduction in size and weight, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 features a 6.5-inch external display and an 8-inch main display, with the inner display 11% larger than the previous model. It's also equipped with a 20-megapixel wide-angle camera, with Samsung improving its AI capabilities by enhancing cooperation with external partners like Google. Meanwhile, the clamshell-style Galaxy Z Flip 7 upgraded its display with slightly larger screens than its previous model and a slimmer and lighter build. And for those at the event, it was a chance to see how Samsung Electronics continues to improve in the competitive mobile phone industry.
I was very excited to come here today and see the unpack of the new Galaxy Flip 7. I'm very surprised by how elegant it looks. It's very lightweight, it's pocketability, and I'm most impressed about AI assistant. It is going to be very helpful in my everyday life.
Samsung also unveiled its latest Galaxy Watch 8. According to Samsung Electronics, the new Galaxy Fold and Flip models will officially launch worldwide on July 25th. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. The Houthi rebel group in Yemen said it has sunk a Greek-operated cargo ship in the Red Sea, killing at least 4 people. This is the second ship the Iran-aligned group has attacked this week. Yemen's Houthis released footage on Wednesday of the Greek-operated carrier Eternity Sea coming under attack on July 7th. The attack resulted in at least 4 confirmed casualties, 6 crew members were rescued by EU coordinated forces, and 15 are still missing, possibly captured by the Houthis. The Houthi military spokesperson claimed their naval unit assisted survivors, providing medical care and transferring them to safety. Europe's top human rights court has ruled that Russia is responsible for atrocities and violations of international law in Ukraine, including the 2014 downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. The European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg announced on Wednesday a unanimous ruling finding Russia formally responsible for shooting down flight MH17 with a Russian Buk missile, resulting in the deaths of all 298 people on board, most of them Dutch citizens. The verdict represents the first international court decision attributing state-level responsibility to Russia for the tragedy. Alongside MH17, the court ruled that Russia systematically violated human rights, including the use of sexual violence, torture, and abductions across Ukraine since 2014. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov dismissed the judgment, saying, "We won't abide by it. We consider it void." Ukraine welcomed the symbolic judgment, hailing it as a historic and undeniable victory for the country. AI chip maker Nvidia became the first public company to reach a $4 trillion market valuation on Wednesday, briefly peaking at $164.42 per share before settling at approximately $3.97 trillion at the end of trading. The company's valuation has nearly quadrupled since June 2023, far outpacing competitors such as Apple and Microsoft. The peak reflects investor confidence in Nvidia's upcoming Blackwell platform and new chip lines. The target price for the company has been raised, citing long-term momentum. The achievement makes Nvidia the world's most valuable company. A study published on July 9th in Science Robotics by scientists at Johns Hopkins University reported that their AI-driven robot has successfully removed a pig's gallbladder completely unassisted. The AI-driven SRTH responded in real time to unexpected situations and verbal commands. Trained on hours of surgical videos, the system mastered the 17-step procedure of a surgery with 100% accuracy across 8 trials. Although slower than a human surgeon, it was even able to correct errors and adapt to changes. Researchers aim to expand trials to human surgeries within the next decade.
How are you holding up in this extreme heat? Heat wave warnings remain in place for western regions today, with intense heat continuing with widespread tropical nights. Well, Jeju will see sudden showers until the afternoon, while western Jeollado, Gyeongsang-Namdo province could see passing rain of up to 30 millimeters during the day today. By the afternoon, Seoul will reach a high of 37 degrees. Daegu, Gwangju will be topping out at 32 and 35 degrees Celsius respectively under sunny skies in most parts of Korea. The risk of heat-related illnesses is extremely high. Please reduce outdoor activities and make sure to drink plenty of water. Sorry for international travelers visiting the western parts of Korea. Go to the eastern regions for the rest of your trip if you can. Searing heat is forecast to bake western regions, including here in Seoul, day and night through the middle of next week. Meanwhile, Jeju Island is expected to receive rain from tomorrow into Sunday.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.